All right, everyone, Angela Giles here. I am back with another episode of the Savage Angel podcast. And today I have the most amazing gentleman here. His name is Chris Moore, and he's all about seniors. And so, Chris, tell us the name of your company.
The name of my company is Senior Remodeling Experts, and I will have been in business 25 years on June the 1st. And we started out building new homes, and then round about 2008, new homes fell out of favor along with
Yes.
most of the rest of the economy. And it was at that time that my mom had a stroke. My mom and dad had been living in Arizona in an age restricted community for 15 years or so. And my mom had a stroke and they moved back to Virginia to be closer to family. And they bought a house and my mom fell and broke her pelvis and she came home in a wheelchair. And there were 5 or 6 steps getting in the house. So I built my first wheelchair ramp and just doing some things for my mom and needing another way to make a living in the financial crisis led me to discover aging in place. And so from that time, got educated about the demographics and the number of people that are getting older and how our homes are not built for people that have any kind of mobility impairment, and began doing a lot of home modifications. We do a lot of grant work for disabled veterans, and we do all kinds of projects on homes, from new homes all the way down to the smallest modifications. And
So
one of the things that became very obvious is that many of the people who needed these modifications the most wanted them the least. I
interesting.
would hear, "No, no, no, I'm not ready for that yet. I don't want that. I'm fine. I'm not having any problem." And the more that I got that reaction, the more curious it seemed that people would be so resistant to something that could be very helpful to them. And slowly over time, it dawned on me that a lot of this reaction has to do with people's perception of what it means to get older. People didn't want to think about getting older.
Yeah,
People had a very deeply rooted, deeply seated belief that getting older means getting weaker and sicker and less capable and less valuable and less seen, and
that's
just
hard.
generally, I remember my mother sitting in her recliner weeping, saying, "I'm useless," because she couldn't do the things that she had always done to take care of her family. And the more I realized it didn't have to be that. I would run into people that were I ran into a gentleman recently that's 90 years old and he's through hiking the Appalachian Trail.
Okay. Okay, so first of all, we have to stop there for 1 second because that's super cool. Tell everybody where you're from.
I live in Salem, Virginia, in Southwest Virginia. We're in the Blue Ridge Mountains. The AT goes through here just a few miles from me. It's what's called the Triple Crown of Virginia, which is Tinker Cliffs, McAfee Knob, and Dragon's Tooth, which are three of the most iconic vistas that hikers go to see. And I met this man. He goes by the trail name of Graybeard on McAfee Knob one Sunday morning as he was hiking through. And I have an interview with him on my YouTube channel. And I hiked with him for 4.5 miles. The man's 90 years old, and he kept telling me, "We can go a little faster. We're going downhill." Right. And he's dancing around and he's bright eyed and full of life. And then I see people who are in their 50s that think they're old and they can't get off the couch.
Okay, I have to agree with you there because I'm in my phase and I have so many friends or acquaintances, I would say, that I hear the same thing. "Oh, I'm too old for that," or "I'm getting old." I was just talking to someone actually last night, late at night, someone that called me, and her and I were having this conversation. She's like, "Oh, I'm getting old. I'm going to sell my house because it's stairs and it's," I'm like, I don't even think like my whole thing, I don't even think about it. I'm like, first of all, I don't I don't even view myself as getting old. Second of all, like I don't have that mentality. I just it's like I think you it's a mindset.
It is a mindset.
Yeah.
One of the books that I read when I was researching my book, Age Out Loud, which just came out last week, is a book called Breaking the Age Code, written by a woman named Becca Levy. She is a Yale professor, and her research shows that simply by having a positive viewpoint of aging, like you just described, like I'm going to enjoy every minute of it. I think it's a wonderful thing that I'm the age that I am. I'm 63. I think it's living a long life is a great thing. There's so many wonderful things we can do in this life. But having that kind of viewpoint as opposed to, oh, I'm getting older and it sucks to be old and that whole will add 7.5 years to your life.
Yeah. You don't wanna hear something, and I think you'll love this because this is your what you do, your bread and butter, is I read a book, and I don't remember the exact title, but it was something about living till 120 years old, and it was this Asian man that literally has almost cracked the code, and just some of the cool things in there, and he talked about mindset, he talked about walking. He even, like, taught you how to walk a certain way so it would help your hips and your knees and your legs and your feet. I mean, the attitude was incredible, and I agree with you so much. And so, one of the things that I thought was really cool when we first talked, and you just told me it was out, it's called Age Out Loud. It's a book that you just isn't just barely released, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
it has been out like a week.
a week. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
2 weeks maybe.
2 weeks. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's talk about that. I mean, I definitely want to dive a little bit deeper into what it looks like for someone that is aging or needs help modifying maybe their home to age in place. But before we dive into that, let's talk about your book. I want to hear more. Tell the viewers, what is your book about? Why did you decide to write this book at this time and how they can get a copy?
Well, the genesis of the book came from what I just described of just seeing people who were so resistant to the idea of talking about making changes to their home
Mhm.
and this whole mindset about aging. And so that's where the journey started. It took me down some very interesting pathways as I followed that concept. One of the things um, that happened to me in Um, 2021, I'd been in business for 20 years, was our first year hitting $1 million in revenue, and we did 21% net margin and just had a really amazing year in terms of business. But in December of that last year, my wife came to me and told me she was pretty sure she had pneumonia.
Okay.
But she didn't want to go to the hospital because of COVID and all the craziness surrounding that. So we
Yeah.
got a telehealth prescription and we got another one and didn't help. Finally went to the hospital. And they informed her after they did a chest X-ray that she did in fact have pneumonia, but more importantly, she had stage 4 lung cancer.
My Lord.
And so that was in January of 22. And so I told my team, do what you can with the business. If there's one when I get back, there will be. If not, and I took care of my wife and she passed away in July. And in the aftermath of that and the pain and the listlessness and the directionless and the purposeless and what am I here for now? I had a memory. And when we first got married, she came down with encephalitis. She was 22 years old. She went in the hospital with encephalitis. She went blind. She had seizures. She lost all of her memory. By all rights, that should have killed her. Lung cancer has a much higher survival rate than encephalitis, if you know
Wow.
anything about
So
encephalitis.
yeah.
And so it occurred to me that I had a choice. I could be mad that she died at 55 years old, which is way too young. Or I realized if someone had told me at the time that she's not going to die, she's going to live 33 more years and bear you 3 more children, I would have been ecstatic. So I realized the power of perception.
Mhm.
We talk about glass half full, glass half empty. We all have the power to reframe anything that happens to us because everything has a positive side and a negative side.
Right.
I don't care how bad it is. I don't care how good it is. It's got two sides and we get to choose. And that's such a huge part of what our perception, not only of aging, but of life itself. when we wake up in the morning, when we open our eyes and they can see, that's a gift.
He really
It's one
is.
that most of us take it for granted.
Yes,
And, the all of the things that we have a roof over our head. We have, lights come on, we turn a switch. We have families, we have all of these things. And yet so often we take those things for granted and we focus on the things that we don't have.
that's true.
And when we do that, we create a cage, we create a prison that we live in by our own choosing.
So I have a question for you around that. Do you feel like as people age that if they have a mindset that's, they're willing to reframe how they think of things that are going on in their life, do you feel like they live as they age, do you feel like they live in more peace, they have better health?
100%. 100%. Because if your mindset is okay, if your mindset is the way you've described some of your acquaintances, that no matter what I do, I'm gonna get weaker and sicker. No matter
Yeah,
what I do, my life, the best part of my life is over and it's all downhill from here.
I
If
think
you
it's
believe
all uphill for like uphill in a good way from here.
100%. But
Yeah.
if you believe that, I mean, if you sincerely believe that, are you gonna try to eat right?
Yeah, I already do eat right.
No, no, no. But I'm saying if you have the perception that no matter what you do, everything's gonna get worse anyway,
I see what you're saying.
right?
No, you won't, you'll eat crap.
Are you gonna exercise? Are you gonna lift
Probably.
weights? Are you gonna walk?
Yeah.
Are you gonna drink water? No, because you believe it's not gonna make any difference anyway.
Yep, I see what you're saying.
However, if you have the mindset that life is wonderful, I'm so thankful for all the gifts that I have. I'm so thankful that God's blessed me to be able to live as long as I have and to have the life that I've had and the experiences that I've had. And I want to keep living as long as I can. Then I'm going to exercise and I'm going to sleep well and I'm going to eat well and I'm going to nurture positive healthy relationships with other people and I'm going to do all of these things because I have an expectation that those things will yield fruit. And so that's kind of, a little bit about the book. We go into I have 7 pillars of ageless vitality that I cover, which are mindset, nutrition, exercise, sleep, relationship with God, relationship with others, and brain health. And so all of those are kind of interconnected and form a foundation, if you will, for a vital and purposeful life. And
Okay.
purpose really is woven in through all of that because having a purpose is kind of the superpower. And that's where what we have come to think of as traditional retirement has been such a in many ways a terrible thing for so many people because people work all their lives looking forward to this magical time of retirement and then they finally make it there and they sit back and then after about 2 weeks of relaxation, they're like, "Well, wait a minute.
What am
What's
I doing now?
what am I doing? What's my
Yeah.
purpose?" And there's plenty of people that don't. There's plenty of people who have tons of purpose and they have a whole bucket list of things and they just hop, skip, and jump off into all the wonderful things they've been planning to do. And that's great for those people. But for people who bought into the mindset that retirement means I don't do anything anymore. I mean, you got to have a purpose. You got to have a
Well, you
reason to get
do.
up in the morning.
So interesting. So I was gonna tell you, Chris, I interviewed a lady. So I have a Facebook community of close to 23,000 women in there, and I was interviewing a woman in there, and she's writing this children's book. It's called Abracadabra, and it's fascinating because we were talking so, she's retirement age, but she's so full of vitality, like, she's got a whole another chapter of her life to live. She shared a stat with me, and I don't remember if she shared this before we were talking because we were talking before, we actually, had the interview, but she said 81% of Americans as a whole are unhappy with their life. And even if you took 81% of seniors, think about that. Like, it's a small percentage of people that really understand that perception's everything, that really understand mindset's everything. And I love that you've come out with this book and that you're putting it out there. So the question for you is, does every single one of your new clients as you move forward in your business get a copy of your book?
Quite figured out every single one yet, but that certainly is, part of the
I think it's great because I was
yeah.
just thinking, like, your book could be, you know, how you have a coffee table and you have, your book on the coffee
Mhm,
table. What a
mhm.
great way to start to get your book out there. I know you're going to be doing a lot of of speaking and things like that, correct?
Right, right.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many baby boomers right now in the United States. I think your book should get in the hands of every single household of baby
Yeah.
boomers.
Well, I'm working on it.
I know you're working on it. I think it's fabulous. So, as it relates to, what you do for a living, I know that you help, seniors adjust their lifestyle as needed. Can you share with us some tips for seniors that if they find themselves, less mobile or things like that that they can do to stay in their home?
Right. So anytime that someone is struggling with or anticipating having an issue with the interface between their home and themselves, there are there are 3 factors I recommend you look at.
Okay.
Okay, the first factor is the person. Okay. What is your health? What are do you have progressive illnesses? What is your prognosis? What are your finances? What is your attitude? What are the tools you bring to the table in terms of interacting with your home? The second one is the place, is the home. What are the features of the home? Does it have steps? Does it have wide doorways? Does it have slippery floors? What's the lighting like? How accessible is it as a home? And the third one is the support network. Do you have neighbors that help? Do you have family that helps? Do you have a church family? Do you have, maybe you have professional caregivers that come in if that's necessary. And it's the at the intersection of those three that we find the best solutions. And I like to say that disability is not necessarily something a person can or can't do. It's the interface between that person and their environment. If I walk up to a home and the steps of this home are 7 feet tall instead of 7 inches tall,
Mm,
then I'm disabled in relation to that home because I can't climb 7 foot steps.
I can't either. So I
Right?
need a couple footstools or like a
Step
ladder,
ladder.
right?
Yeah.
Or my 3
Yeah.
sons standing on top of each other, like, to lift me up.
Yeah. But by the same token, if you have someone who is paralyzed from the waist down, but they have 0 step entry into their home. They have a power wheelchair. They have all the controls within easy reach. They have a curbless shower. They have all the things that they need to live independently in that home. Then they're able to function quite well.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so looking at those interfaces is what I would recommend. And generally the two features of the home that become the obstacle first would be the entryway and the bathroom. So if someone is trying to design a universally designed home, they want to design a home that will work with them regardless of how their health is in the years to come, having a 0 step entry somewhere in the house, which you can get in the house without any steps, and having a fully accessible bathroom, which would be a wide enough door getting into the
yeah.
bathroom, a curbless shower, fall protection, non-slip flooring, plenty of good lighting, roll under sink, that kind of thing.
That's really important to think about, and, it's interesting, I remember when my parents started looking for homes when they were starting to get older, and now that I think back, I'm like, "Wow, they were really smart." I mean, I think their last 3 homes, maybe their last 4 homes have been like a single story type of thing, and it does make a difference for sure as you start to age, but, you know, I think going back to what we were talking about before, it goes back to mindset.
100%.
It really does because the person that I was talking to last night was saying, "Well, I need to sell my place because of the stairs." And I thought, "You're only in your 50s, your early 50s. You don't need like if you put those thoughts in your mind, those thoughts, then it's going to come sooner than later or that might happen for you." Instead, flip the script, right? And talk about how excited and how grateful you are that you have this multi-million dollar home in California and how amazing it is. And think I'm blessed. Thank you.
Climbing stairs is really good cardio.
Well, that's true. That is really true. I climb stairs every day because I live in a two-story house and the master bedroom's upstairs. So, you know, I'm getting in my 10,000 steps every single day. Okay, so my question for you is, do you have any advice that you would like to give to the younger generation that's coming up in the construction and trades industry? How they can work with seniors more if they're looking at more of a niche like what you have?
One
Any
of
advice?
the, um one of the things that I get pretty passionate about is I think that society suffers when seniors are sequestered. In fact, that's the title of one of my chapters. And the whole idea of senior living that we'll put all the seniors, they live over here, and all the young families, they live over here, and the college students, they live over here, and never the twain shall meet. I think we lose so much. So I am hoping that we see more and more integrated housing where older people and younger people live together. I was reading, there was an article that came out in Time magazine the day before my book came out called The New Old Age. And it talks about this thing of longevity. People are living longer and trying different models. There was a reference in there to several retirement communities that are university based. They're based around a university, and the old people are taking classes, and the music students are coming and giving concerts. And there's this interaction between the young people and the old people. And that's crucial to the strength of our society because when we lose that, we lose the fabric of society. We lose the lessons that were learned in the last generation, and everybody's got to start from scratch. And this whole idea of a generation gap that those old fogies, they don't understand what us young people. And it's so funny because the baby boomers back in the 60s were the ones that said never trust anybody over 30, and as of January 1st of this year they started turning 80, right? And so, but age isn't what we should be looking at. Ageism is the only ism that's still culturally acceptable.
Yeah.
If you try to create a housing development that's restricted to a certain race or a certain gender or a certain nationality or certain, anything,
Right. That's
you would, you would, yeah, you would get just lambasted. But, to divide people by age and put all the old people over here where they don't bother anybody, that's still considered okay,
so
but
it's
it's
so
not okay.
it's so interesting that you said that. I never thought of it like that. See, this is why I love doing these episodes is
Mhm.
there's so many really cool things I learned, really amazing people to talk to like yourself, and you've got a really valid point. Now, I will say I live in a community. It's a planned community. There's like 2,500, well, there's probably close to 10,000 homes now, but it's like parks and rec centers, and each home has like a cobblestone, like, in Boston, the cobblestone driveways, and it's really, really cool. And it's mixed. Like I will tell you, there's seniors, there's people my age, there's young
Right.
families, single adults. It's really, really cool. But down the street, like literally 2 miles down the street, tons of senior communities. I mean, so like as you go 3 miles down the street, you go into a grocery store, it's filled full of seniors.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you say that because that is so true where I live. This like the whole area on
Yeah.
the just a few miles down.
I would wonder in your planned community whether that was intentional. It'd be interesting to know. I mean, because I would think in a planned community, that would be a great intention to have. We're going to intentionally create a community where all generations feel welcome and there's opportunity for the young people and the old people to interact and learn from each other. Because I think that's where the future of housing should go.
You
If
know,
we're,
I don't know that it was planned like that, but that's really how it's turned out. I
yeah,
think it was so I live in Las Vegas and we bought in October of 2018. And at that time, it was a fairly new development. And so it was kind of out there at that time, like meaning out towards the edge skirts. Is that the right word?
Outskirts.
Outskirts,
Outskirts.
right? Outskirts of Henderson, Nevada, which is a suburb of Vegas. And now it's all filled in. But it was very affordable and we had young kids and all of the things at the time. And so I think it's been a mix of families and then seniors that, you know, needed really brand new housing that was affordable, single story homes. I mean, we're talking like you could buy a house for 350 to 500,000 over there. And now it's definitely gone way up.
Right, right.
But, for at the time, it was very affordable.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of those planned communities, walkability is is a
Yeah.
big part of the master plan community where, people can have where you have housing and you have retail and you have restaurants and you have all those things that people can walk to because the whole idea of the suburbs came about because of the automobile,
Yeah.
right? Levittown and all of that was because everybody had a car in the 40s and 50s. And now, as the population is aging and driving sometimes becomes difficult, these suburbs that are automobile dependent, transportation becomes the bottleneck in the aging in place
True.
formula,
Yeah.
right? And so that whole issue of, okay, if somebody can't drive, how do they remain independent? Uber has helped some of that to some degree, but then, a lot of people are very hesitant about, especially older people, the idea of getting in a car with somebody you don't know, that has its own, um
Well, it's interesting. I have to give a shout out to Uber. I mean, every company has its things, but I will tell you, my husband and I, excuse me, one of our best friends, 67, and he recently moved from California to live with us. He has no family and we love him tremendously. And he had a stroke like 25 years ago. He's doing great. But part of his thing that he gets as part of his, because he has disability, is he gets Uber, so he gets a certain amount of Uber rides to his medical appointments, things like
Uh-huh.
that, and I think that is fantastic. I didn't even know that Uber did that 'cause, I've never had to deal with that, right?
Right, right.
He doesn't have his own vehicle, but it's so awesome how he's so secure going in an Uber because it's packaged up in a way that it's part of going to a medical, it's a trusted thing. So I think that what they're doing there is amazing.
Yeah,
Because quite frankly, like I'm so busy, it's like I would make the time to drive him if I needed to, but the fact that he can call an Uber and it's taken care of is fantastic. So, yeah. Well, I love having our conversation today, Chris. It's been awesome. So, share with me your website so people can know where to find you, whether it's to look for your book or to, talk to you about making some changes in their home, whatever that looks like.
okay. So my construction company in Virginia, seniorremodelingexperts.com is
Okay.
our website. I have a YouTube channel, which is also Senior Remodeling Experts. And then as far as the book, the website for the book is ageoutloudbook.com.
Okay.
And it is available on Amazon. You can just go to Amazon and search for Age Out Loud and get it that way. But on the website, we have some other levels of involvement. There's a membership site where people can get some recordings and some ongoing coaching and so on and so forth.
Wonderful.
Um, that's and we also have a Facebook. We just started a Facebook page for Age Out Loud. Don't have a whole lot
Well,
going
I
on in it yet, but
Well, there will be as time goes on.
yeah.
And what we'll do too, for those of you that are listening, below this episode, you can find all of his contact information. We'll be sure to have it listed below. And the one thing, and I usually don't say this after an episode, but for me, it's super important. I have aging parents. If you loved this episode, I would love for you to share this with someone that either has relatives that are aging or people that are aging that can really understand that there's a different way at looking at things. So share this episode out. I would really appreciate it. And thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate your time and showing up today. And any last words of wisdom before we sign off?
I would just piggyback on what you just said of sharing that, have the conversation.
Yeah.
Don't wait, have the conversation, talk about possibilities, talk with your loved ones, come up with a plan. Don't just surrender to the ravages of aging and say, "Oh, my life's over and all my best days are behind me." Believe in yourself, believe in your possibilities, and make a plan to make the most out of every day that you have because they're precious.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure to have you today. See you later, everyone, on the next episode of Savage Angel.